Okay, adjusting volume, and well, here's my review to conclude the original Star Wars trilogy. I kind of wish I was talking about Empire Strikes Back this week because this was the 40th anniversary. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I'm not totally sure. But anyway, here is the conclusion to the original trilogy. And this one is kind of the weakest link of the first trilogy. It's not bad, but while the first two films were A pluses, this one is more of a B minus. And again, that's not bad, but that's a little lower than the first two. And I feel like this film kind of gets a bum rap, really. So the story, as I'm assuming most of you know, is the rebels fighting the Emperor, and somehow destroying the second Death Star means the Empire is gone for realsies, even though they already did that in the first film. I mean, uh, Jabba the Hutt in first minute. Um, yeah. So one of the major complaints that this movie has is the fact that it has a lot of long detours, namely the whole first 15-20 minutes of the movie where they're trying to break out Han Solo from Jabba's palace. I'm not really sure what people are looking for here because if you're watching the theatrical version where it doesn't have that bizarre dance sequence, I think it cuts to the chase a bit. And what would you want? Han to get broken out immediately without much of the action or the fun? I mean, I see where people are coming from, but it makes a little sense for this to be lengthy because it kind of adds more. Well, it leads to some fun action scenes, so I'm not really going to complain for that. If it had bad acting and silly moments, then I would have some complaints. But I feel like it's kind of a lengthy but worthwhile detour to get to the trip. You know, personally, for me, it's like taking a detour that's makes your road trip longer, but you get to see a lot of pretty scenery you wouldn't have seen if you just stuck to the direct route. So yeah, and it is kind of fun to see Luke outwit Jabba and his miscreants through wit and athleticism. And it does kind of show Luke is growing more as a Jedi and becoming more mature. He's not the farm boy that was kind of a whiny child, and he's not the impatient ass that he was in parts of Empire Strikes Back. You know, this is where Luke fully becomes mature, and it does lead into another part of the story where he believes that he can save his father. And Yoda does confirm that Vader is actually Luke's pop. And I mean, I guess with Yoda confirming it, I actually am okay with it. And then Obi-Wan confirms it a few scenes later. That is okay, but I do still kind of feel like I still my main criticism from Empire Strikes Back, which is a really small one, is that Luke was very quick to believe his father was Vader. He didn't question it. He didn't have a double take. He just took it as fact. But now that two characters that knew Anakin personally are saying, "Yep, Vader and Anakin are one and the same," it does make a little more sense for him to believe it. Then I would have liked it more if Luke was a little more conflicted up until the point in the trilogy, up until this movie where he gets it confirmed from Yoda and Ghost Ben. That would have made a little more sense. But anyway, I swear I'm complaining over an incompletion when the quarterback has thrown 25 completions out of 31 passes. Seriously, it's like complaining about going 25 of 36 for 300 yards and four touchdowns. It's kind of silly. Um, and I think another thing I would say is that people also complained about how this movie was more lighthearted than the Empire Strikes Back, and they were kind of complaining about the Ewoks. I do think it would have been more fun if we got to explore, because what this trilogy does so well is building on character arcs and personalities and characteristics from the characters throughout the series. So I think it would have been cool if they did feature Chewbacca's Wookiee countrymen, planetmen. I'm not sure how you say that. That would have been more interesting to see than the cute little teddy bears, but the Ewoks aren't bad. And they do give a very interesting theme in the movie about man versus, well, nature versus technology. And it is kind of well done how they team up with the rebellion and they eventually manage to defeat the Empire and oust them from their planet. And while the ending of this movie is sort of a retread, there's a lot more suspense in this than A New Hope, mainly because the heroes are more scattered. For example, Luke is on the incomplete Death Star trying to save Vader and defeat the Emperor. Lando is leading a aerial space assault on the Death Star, trying to blow it up to Kingdom Come, and Han and everyone else are down on Endor with the Ewoks trying to destroy the shield generator so the Death Star can be vulnerable and kaboom, you know? And I think each of those are given the right amount of screen time and the right amount of attention. Luke does get most of the attention because the story is really, even though it's about the rebellion ultimately winning the war, it's also about Vader's redemption, which I guess it has more poetic significance to it. They would try to add more poetic licensing for these movies with the way they would have Anakin in the prequels. Oh God, I have to review those next week. Anyway, so I really do think this movie did a great job at handling three different main characters at once. And you do see Han, he still kind of has that rebellious streak in him. But again, he's grown from being the selfish smuggler in the first film to being a lot more selfless in this movie. And he doesn't realize that Luke and Leia are brother and sister. But when he gets the idea that Leia might have romantic feelings for Luke, he willingly backs off until he realizes the truth. Which, I mean, he doesn't realize it. Leia flat out tells him what's going on. But again, it's weird how Leia comes to the conclusion that Luke is her brother. Because, again, much like the realization that Vader is Luke's father, there's not a whole lot of proof to necessarily confirm that at first. It's a little weird. I mean, I guess it's set up a little more saying that Luke kind of knows there's another hope or something. I mean, they do set up, they do hint at it a little better that they're brother and sister, but okay, I'm not going to make the joke that everyone makes, that the incest joke about Luke and Leia making out with each other in Empire Strikes Back. To be fair, well, I mean, I guess to say, it's not really incestuous if you don't know you're related, right? I'm not sure. If anyone is going to comment on this video, you can try to explain that to me down there. I'm probably not going to respond to anyone if they do comment about the incest joke, but I'd be interested to see what people say just to see how insane it gets. I like goofy, weird stuff. What are you going to do? Um, so, all in all, I mean, Return of a Jedi, even though it's not as strong as the first two movies, it's still really damn good. And I think this was a great ending to a very phenomenal film series. There's really not much else I can say. I mean, I guess I could say that, the visual effects once again look great. The puppetry on Jabba and his miscreants is pretty well done. And okay, Leia's, do I really need to talk about the bikini that Leia was in? Because I mean, I think we all know that. I think every nerd on the planet has pleasured themselves with that thought in their head repeatedly. So anyway, um, ah, boy, um, yeah, I guess instead of Darling Nikki, it's Darling Carrie for that bit. And yeah, look up Darling Nikki with Prince. I think you'll get what the the joke I'm making there. Anyway, overall, I think this was a very solid film. I think some of the things that people complain about with the movie are legitimate, but they're not as much of a detriment to the film as these people would have you believe. So I think this was a very solid ending. It actually felt like a very strong, satisfying conclusion, unlike Rise of Skywalker, which I will get to 5 or 6 weeks from now because I'm going through every single trilogy. So I'm a third of the way there, and oh, next week I have to review the Phantom Menace. I'm okay. Anyway, so this Monday I will be doing a cover of the song "Good Lovin'" from the Young Rascals, and then I will start reviewing the prequels, and then, as hyped, the Springsteen tribute. So there's going to be some pretty cool things coming up, guys. And all I can say is, groovy. See ya.